Hello everyone! Today we will explain and show you the differences between anti-theft acoustomagnetic and radio frequency systems, and why you need to know it. Similar information exists on the internet, and it's also on my website, but unfortunately not all users interested in this topic can read the basic languages or use translators. This video is not motivating to committing unlawful acts. In this video, I demonstrate the features of two main types of anti-theft systems, and I can't assume who and how will apply this knowledge. Therefore, we do not take any responsibility, and this video is not advertising. My personal aim, which I pursue creating this video, is to reduce explanation time of extremely simple basic information and answering questions that waste a huge amount of my personal time needed for other much more important tasks, which you will see today, which have been implemented for many years. This video will be translated into all major languages of the customers who are interested in equipment in their own development. All this will be done using subtitles. The text will be displayed below. You can choose on YouTube. This video will be posted on YouTube. You can choose the language you need and read. I hope you'll make it. If you suppose, while watching this video, that I'm advertising my developments and products, you'll be mistaken, as for a long time there is no need in advertising them. You might simply not understand how far you are behind the development and opportunities of improving your own security. This video will be split into chapters, sections and demonstrations of various vulnerabilities of anti-theft systems. Thank you. Let's get started. We'll start with the first chapter, the theory of anti-theft systems, in which I'll tell you how to distinguish acoustics from radio frequency. First, a bit of history. Many years ago, in the market of anti-theft systems, which didn't exist in principle, two companies appeared in America, Sensormatic and Checkpoint. Sensormatic was a branch of the company Tyco, and it is still now. Roughly said, development teams that decided to do something new based on previous knowledge about transponders, detection systems of tags, access control, and video surveillance. Technically, the company Sensormatic is a company that deals mainly with video surveillance and not only anti-theft systems, as its variety is wide and really huge. This is only a branch. And Checkpoint, in another state, which was also engaged in the access control system. Independently of each other, very many years ago, probably around 30 or even more, different developers started to serve chain stores, providing them not so much protection of goods. It was originally not protection of goods. It used to be some kind of help for customers not to forget to pay for their goods. Original anti-theft systems were not anti-theft, but preventing damage to the client in case he accidentally forgot to pay, so that he could not be prosecuted by no means. That is, using this method and installing the system stores cared more about customers than about their product. After a long while, these companies faced competitors, but the last ones competing companies decided to produce only systems that detected radio frequencies tags invented by Check Point and tags of the acoustic technology invented by the Sensormatic company, because there was no point in selling and implementing any additional tags in stores. These were already in stores. One needed to invent either radio frequency or acoustomagnetic system, but the first ones are also not at a stop. Check Point develops its systems. Sensormatic develops its systems. Let's stop a little on conceptual construct. What is an anti-theft system? This is a system of one frame, if it's a monosystem, or two frames in most of the cases. Visually identical with light and sound alarm. That is, we see in some cases only light, and in most cases both sound and light. It happens that the sound is carried out beyond the theft protection system, not to frighten buyers when passing in the store, and accordingly tags. Theft detector of the radio frequency technology is a system of wires and a condenser. In the center is a condenser and a counter of wires. The system of a wire and a condenser receiving energy from the anti-theft system accumulates it in the condenser, and not all tags are of the highest quality. Accumulating energy in the condenser, the oscillating circuit system, after the energy has accumulated, it spills back into the shell, into the circuit itself, and energy comes out of the tag. This is in the case of the radio frequency system. In the case of acoustomagnetic tags, the simplest stickers, a slightly different principle is used, magnetostrictive. Inside a tag there are several strips on basis of magnetic vibrations. They vibrate among themselves, and the resonant response is created, and the gate hears it. That's exactly why acoustomagnetic technology is called acousto, because it hears mostly the sound that is a little bit higher than sound frequency that we hear. This is the most basic explanation of what a sensor is. In the acoustomagnetic technology, the same principle is also used with a condenser, but a little different physical principle of labeling. Next, a very simple explanation of why there are two frames. One frame always radiates a signal, and now there is listening. We can observe it using the indicator. This is a radio frequency indicator. If we bring it to the frame, we see light emission. That is, this frame generates a signal in the same place. If we bring it to the receiving frame, it doesn't generate it. This frame analyzes the signal. We also have an acoustomagnetic indicator. In this case, it's the frame that generates a signal, and this one analyzes it. Here, the signal is much smaller. Chapter 2, in which we will tell you in detail how custom magnetic stickers distinguish from radio frequency ones. This is actually the most important difference. If stickers are present in the store, you can always determine which system stands at the exit. This is the main sign because a radio frequency sticker is invisible to the acoustic system. And for radio frequency as well, not always, the custom magnetic system doesn't see a radio frequency sticker. The radio frequency system doesn't respond to the custom magnetic sticker in no way. What are their features? The custom magnetic sticker, it can be only plastic. Always just plastic, because inside there are strips in the calm space that allows them to vibrate. The size is 4 centimeters, and the width is not more than a centimeter. They can be more compact, but anyway plastic convex, and more often with a complex barcode that means nothing, just disguise, not to distinguish itself. Why it is there? Both here and there, it's just not to distinguish itself on the product, to scare buyers less. The interior of this tag consists of several strips of metal of the same size, which are very vulnerable to bending and squeezing, because if they are bent, they can't be inside in the composition. And the main feature of the radio frequency system is stickers of the square type. They can be also round, but all of them have a spiral structure and a condenser in the center. They are always very thin and very soft. They can be distinguished by touch if they are stuck under something, and from the factory they are sometimes stuck already inside the boxes, the same as these tags. It is very easy to identify them visually, because the structure of the oscillatory circuit and the condenser structure are very clearly seen. And you can always understand that this is a tag of the radio frequency system. This is an acoustic magnetic tag. And that is more likely if we see this. It means the radio frequency system is used at the entrance. But a little diversion. It happens that in one store there are those other tags. Let's add some intelligence and see which tags are more spread. Sometimes it happens that before this, let's say the custom magnetic system, there used to be the radio frequency system in the store. And the store has to change tags for a time. Anything can happen. And gradually the replacement takes place. They never have dual systems in stores. It happens extremely rarely, just at the time of moving from one system to another. It will definitely be 2 huge full systems standing close to each other, not small, not narrow, but 2 full systems. In that case, yes, of course, you will need to be protected from one and another system, but you will see it at the entrance because it will look very strange. Now, small vulnerability of the radio frequency tag. It's also vulnerable to bending and halves, and its structure doesn't allow the circuit to receive energy. But if we straighten it, it carries out its performance. The easiest way is to do like this. Tear it, disrupt the integrity of the circuit, or integrity of the condenser directly. What else can we do with this tag? Even a slight tear. Let's take the most fully working tag, the sticker. even a little tear. I'll show you now, which destroys even one loop of the circuit. Already disrupts the tag completely, and it's almost impossible to restore it. Based on this, if there are anti-theft tags stickers in the store, let's name them correctly. You can very easily understand what's at the entrance. Further, we will look at the next difference in the next chapter. Chapter 3, in which we will cover first hard acoustomagnetic tags and radio frequency tags. Hard, not deactivated acoustomagnetic tags in a plastic case that work constantly, which are not deactivated, check out, which are not subject to removal from the store by the buyer, they remain in the store. The insides of such tags are either the similar strip, which consists of a bit different materials, and is not deactivated. If these strips can be magnetized, or rather demagnetized with a deactivator, then the strips that are inside supertag tags are not possible to deactivate. They will continue to fluctuate under any conditions except some nuances connected with magnetic features. If we change the magnetic effect of these stripes inside, they, due to magnetic features, stop fluctuating, and accordingly the tag doesn't work. All supertag tags of the elongated form are acoustomagnetic. That's why they are elongated to fit a strip there. The strip is there of the same size, but there is a tag, supertag. This tag differs as it has a hole. Some users mix it up with a similar radio frequency tag that has no hole. It's also acoustomagnetic. Now let's move on to the acoustic tags, such as ferrite, in which the oscillatory circuit is around a ferrite core with a condenser. In such a supertag, the tag is located approximately in that position and performs basically the same functions and is also deactivated. Further, we will look at the tags in which ferrite cores are used. Oscillatory circuits, tags of the pencil tag type. They have a coil in an ordinary plastic standard case. In addition, they are an invention of the Sensormatic company, initially their patent. But not all pencil tag tags are acoustomagnetic. Third-party manufacturers, Chinese manufacturers, can put their radio frequency ferrite tag. That's why our task is to be able to determine the gate visually by the stickers. We will discuss a little bit later, it's outside. Now we will get to know that there are other hard tags, in which there may also be an acoustomagnetic coil, but it may also be radio frequency. But this is already in the aggregate. The similar tag which has a place under the acoustomagnetic coil and accordingly stickers in the shop, you can already determine that the system is most likely acoustomagnetic. But except supertag, Except pencil tag, there are other tags. We also forgot a little about a tag like Ultragata, which also contains a non-deactivated strip. These tags are not hooked. Although they seem to be similar, they are removed with the help of the physical impact using a special puller. The tag is also acoustomagnetic. The next type of a tag, which may be acoustomagnetic, is a usual golf tag, in which a coil is easily placed, but life is such a thing that everything changes and happens like this. Why? Because coils take up not much place, and tags can be both radio frequency and acoustomagnetic. I have assumptions that similar tags will appear on the market soon. With their universal features, they will be in high demand in stores and by suppliers. We will consider it later. Also, the tag manufacturer, Duraltag, produces acoustomagnetic systems, acoustic magnetic tags, and also produces radio frequency tags. Visually, they can be the same, and inside can be totally different. Therefore, the complex of knowledge is applied to distinguish them. This is what I wanted to tell you about the difference of acoustomagnetic tags. There's also a tag which is usually put on glasses. Fixed on glasses, on the earpieces of glasses. I'm just showing you how it is fixed. There's just a clip inside, also a non-deactivated strip. We will talk about more complex tags in the separate chapter. We proceed to the chapter about radio frequency tags. Hard tags. What is the difference between radio frequency tags? All their differences and nuances. Let's start with the simplest, with the most, figuratively speaking, Asian tags. These are flat tags in which there is a radio frequency circuit. They are very typical, and the similar label of different sizes is located in them. Accordingly, it is impossible by size to place inside even an acoustomagnetic mark, and it makes no sense to make the tag so big if the mark is acoustomagnetic. You can see that a similar type of tags is quite common. It's flat. Nothing but similar oscillating counter can be there. Further, these are cone marks with a cone structure of the oscillatory circuit, as I showed here. They have just a smaller diameter and a conical structure. Why did it become such over the years? It's a more advanced technology. Due to this, it's less possible to skip the mark. And in this form, it is caught in any zone of the gate. With this form, it answers better and the gate sees the tag better than the flat tag, for instance. The technology is evolving, everything is going gradually. In such a tag, it has a conical structure. In the center, there is most likely just a lock, circle-wise. There is quite a little coil with a small cone. Accordingly, in golf tags, in all of the similar, the conical structure is already inside. Bottle tags of the radio frequency system also differ and visually differ from a costomagnetic, just the same flat shape. If the form is such, then nothing but radio frequency tags can be inside. We'll also separately look at this tag. There are a lot of questions about it. Everyone thinks it's a costomagnetic. Because of the form and the fact that it's convex and the fact that it's white, but it says checkpoint. Checkpoint never produces a costomagnetic systems. If you see somewhere on the tags the inscription checkpoint, it's a radio frequency system. Also, inside the tags, there can be not only such cones, and as I've showed you in this tag, ferrite cores, oscillatory circuits on ferrite. I also repeat, in pencil tag there can also be such a ferrite core, and it may be in some of these tags. Let's say here, as I see, there is one capsule. Quite possible that in the second part of this tag there is a ferrite core, because there is space. The tag is radio frequency, and perhaps it uses this particular nuance. How can we determine what is inside the tag? That there is a core, not a coil. We have a visual example, an costomagnetic tag, dural tag. If we try to magnetize it to the puller, it always gets crooked because the ferrite core magnetizes to the puller greatly. Because, in fact, ferrite itself is iron. Accordingly, if the tag is connected to the puller in a completely non-standard way, let's say as a common tag, it is always put more or less straight. And this one, there is a coil inside, and then appears a question, what kind of it? That is, the radio frequency is also magnetized, but it's exactly an costomagnetic coil that is usually set inside. Radio frequency is extremely rarely. They are placed only in pencil tag. That's all. You see perfectly the difference between hard radio frequency tags from hard costomagnetic ones. The subsection of the chapter Hard Tags, Universal Tags, which contains both a costomagnetic and the radio frequency tag, for the simple reason there is a lot of space. The manufacturer of these tags, like all tag manufacturers of the spider type, places everything inside in order to make it easier for shops to buy without thinking about the type of the system. This tag fits everything. Accordingly, inside there is usually an oscillatory circuit, a radio frequency or a costomagnetic mark, plus a radio frequency circuit, or an costomagnetic mark plus a radio frequency tag, also on ferrite. It is very easy to deactivate this tag. Having changed temporarily its magnetic properties. We'll talk about this separately later. In this chapter, we will consider some more tags called 2-alarm and 3-alarm. They can be both costomagnetic and radio frequency. They can be in the form of large spiders. What are their features?
В чем их особенность?
When we see a simple tag, we look at it
Мы смотрим на него и видим
and we see the invisible inscription, 1 alarm. Why is 2 alarm characterized on the tags?
фризуется 2 аларма.
Because it's protection from cutting cables. When we cut the cable, this tag starts making alarm. Accordingly, this is a radio frequency tag.
Радиочастотный.
Here is the same that protects from biting off the needle, also radio frequency tag.
Иголки. Тоже радиочастотный датчик.
And accordingly, the spider tag is also always active. It's radio frequency even on the innermost side. After we open it,
После того, как мы его откроем,
we can see that even there is an inscription, radio frequency. The spider is small, therefore not universal, because inside there is not enough space for multiple tags at once. We will separately look at the category of tags, 3 alarm. They can be marked
подписанные
and they are unmarked from manufacturers from China or some other manufacturers. In this case, this manufacturer is the company Century. How does this tag work? The product is protected, and if a contact is broken,
Если контакт
the
нарушается,
tag begins to squeak. That means this is 2 alarm protection.
то есть это защита 2 аларма.
Works in such a case, when we set the alarm, the contact gets lost.
Контакт теряется,
It immediately begins to make a sound.
издавать нам тревогу.
How does 3 alarm system work? Much simpler. We set this tag on the alarm
Мы ставим на охрану этот датчик. И
and
если
if we go through the gate of the appropriate system, first let's go through the inappropriate one. The 3 alarm tag will not respond to the acoustic system. But if we go through the radio frequency system,
радиочастотную систему,
suitable for this tag, the tag usually works.
как видите,
But as you can see, the tag analysis system doesn't let it work,
потому что период
because the gate periods of crosspoint are a little different. I don't know why it happens this way. I'll show it to you on an example of acoustomagnetic systems. We set an alarm on the tag 3 alarm
системы
of the acoustomagnetic system. Here is the magnetic receiving mark.
приемная.
That means
Если мы подходим
that we approach the acoustomagnetic system.
к системе, датчик начинает
The tag starts responding to it, and while the tag is open, only the gates react to it. Accordingly, the radio frequency gates do not respond to it. Let's try to check this tag again.
проверить этот датчик.
This tag doesn't respond, but we have such a thing as a jammer,
Глушилка,
which uses the same frequency
ту же частоту,
the frequency of 8 MHz,
и, соответственно, если ворота подходят
being
к этому
similar
датчику,
to this one,
так же, как и
it
эти
will
все
work
ворота
at the gate.
на воротах. То есть,
That is, if we approach, if the tag is set on alarm, it immediately reacts. Accordingly, as I've already showed, what can be done with this tag?
у нас
We have a system nearby that is very powerful.
которая очень
If we take it further,
отнесем подальше,
and while this tag doesn't hear the gate,
этот датчик
If we place the magnet
мы в нужном месте,
in the right place, then neither the tag
то ни датчик,
nor the gate
ни ворота
sees anything. That's because we've changed the features of a costomagnetic mark
магнитного метра.
using the magnetic method. Then we'll remove it away.
Что дальше?
What is left for now? We've reviewed the tap.
Датчик мы рассмотрели.
We've reviewed universal tags. We proceed to the next chapter.
Следующие
Gates.
ворота.
How to distinguish a radio frequency anti-theft system
Виду противокражную систему.
from a costomagnetic on the outside. While creating, the technology was selected during its development.
Были выбраны в процессе их разработки определенные
Certain best configurations
расположения
for the location inside these frames, wires, electronics. And when the costomagnetic system came to its ultimate perfection,
окончательному совершенству.
it was about 15 years ago,
Когда компания
when Sensormatic finally formed the ideal parameters of costomagnetic antennas and costomagnetic emitters, receiving antennas, everything went to the fact that in this case, two sockets are used crossing each other at a short distance. This system starts to see what is on our table.
данная система начинает видеть.
So let's turn a bit the receiving antenna.
Немножечко развернем приемную антенну.
We have a shadow. I'll show you. Crossing each other antennas,
Друг друга. Антенна.
consisting of two circuits. One emits while the other listens to.
А другая слушает.
Both the receiving and emitting parts match in format for reasons of the best electronic interaction.
Ну и лучшего взаимодействия.
The radio frequency system ideally consists of a few. Over the years, manufacturers also came to certain ideal characteristics, and the location of the antennas,
Расположение антенн. Здесь
and here are 3 circuits. In an costomagnetic system, there are 2 circuits that cross each other at a short distance,
состояние, а здесь находится
and here are 3 circuits, an upper counter, a middle counter, and a bottom counter. Why is it made this way? All these circuits simultaneously emit in one frame and listen in another frame,
в одной рамке, а в другой рамке слушают. Каждый
each
свою.
its own zone.
Сделано
This is done in the process of technology development so that, on all height,
в высоте.
there is a uniform field and uniform identifications. In the case of an costomagnetic system, it's not required because of other physical principles, and there are no blind spots, since even for the distance, not between the gates,
Расстояние не между
the
воротами.
costomagnetic system creates such the fluctuation power that the tags see it.
Вы видите,
If you see the anti-theft system, in which in the middle
находятся
2 cross beams are closely located,
перекладины, поперечины.
in the middle, or you see the system
Или вы видите систему.
with evenly distributed 2 or 3 boards cross beams,
Перекладины.
you can easily understand this is an costomagnetic or radio frequency system. This is the most basic visual method of the definitions for anti-theft systems.
Противокражной системы
On the outside,
первого виду.
there are no other visual differences.
Отличий визуальных нет. Но
Being
понимая это,
aware
что
of the fact that gates are often not transparent,
непрозрачными часто ворота бывают.
gates are often closed by advertising, Then difficulties appear. Sometimes you enter a store and see only such a tag. Then you'll ask what to do. It's not clear what is there. It's not clear which type of system it is. There are no marks anywhere. In Alvayuans, you can come up to the cash desk and see what equipment is there. But this also doesn't always give its effect. In extreme cases, we use a simple method. We take one of the marks and we go without any fear to ring or squeak. This is the most extreme method. There are methods with less risks. They are more technological. These are indicators I have already shown. We have a radio frequency indicator. There is a similar acoustomagnetic indicator. We made a radio frequency indicator using knowledge of physics. It uses an LED. It doesn't cause triggering even when passing through the radio frequency system, being not far from the frame that emits the signal. You can see that it is a radio frequency system indeed. This is development. If needed, to boost your security for extremely difficult cases. In fact, professional specialists, narrow specialists in our field and the area of anti-theft systems, on the totality of basic differences, will always be able to determine. The use of indicators is required. I'll just repeat it again. In case when we see some kind of a round thing, golf tag, and don't understand what's behind the ad. There is one more method. We can recognize visually all types of anti-theft systems, all manufacturers. Looking a little above, one can see the top. But it's also not always effective, because a small number of professionals can determine by the top what kind of system is there. You need to know the whole spectrum of equipment. Therefore, if you want to know exactly and doubt, then as a last resort, you apply either this indicator or this. You can change either this or this. You can apply only one of them. I recommend applying an acoustomagnetic indicator, because if it passes through a radio frequency system, it will never light up, in no case, but it will light perfectly if you go through an acoustomagnetic system. The indicator should be in this position, repeating the parallelism of the contours. What am I talking about? That contour is wound parallel to the gate. You go through this system and you'll know for sure that it's exactly an acoustomagnetic system. This is an extreme method for the definition of anti-theft systems. I will switch a little to the last development. I repeat again, it's not advertising. This is our idealization. This is a new prototype of a new indicator. This is a vibration indicator of anti-theft systems. In case we close it to the one type of the system, one vibrating motor works out, which emits a specific vibration. In case we bring it to the radio frequency system, another type of vibrating motor works out, and we know exactly what kind of system it is. More detailed information about vibration indicators we will publish in 1-2 months. It will be at the end of summer 2019. Chapter 5. Vulnerabilities. We will start with the story of how it all began. It all started very simply. People saw techniques, people understood that techniques uses
используя определенные
certain
сигналы
signals
и
and common school knowledge of physics that let people's imagination run wild. And in school physics, they say about such a thing like a Faraday sphere.
сфера Фарадея.
And even this thing is just a Faraday sphere. If you put, let's say, a radio frequency tag in this not always closed sphere,
Датчик, он
it does not work, because there are some physics nuances
есть некоторые нюансы физики,
that don't
которые
let it
позволяют
perform
ему
oscillatory actions.
колебательные действия. Также
The same with acoustomagnetic systems, but acoustomagnetic systems
гораздо более мощный
are much more powerful, and to create a complete effect,
эффект был полноценным.
it needs complete shelter or hiding from all sides
Либо
as tightly as possible.
укрытие со всех сторон максимально плотное. Что пытливый человеческий
What
мозг?
did a keen human brain invent as a result?
Небольшой
A
карман
small
фольги,
foil pocket in which everything works quite effectively.
эффективно
This is the same metal, and as you can see, the acoustic system has a certain advantage
имеет определенное преимущество,
over the radio frequency one, which much more vulnerable
которое гораздо более уязвимо
to any shielding methods. Even if we turn any parts
поворачиваем любыми частями
to the radio frequency system, the tag can't work, because on its sides they interfere to perform oscillatory actions.
колебательное действие.
In the case of a radio frequency system, it even works like this,
Это работает даже вот так.
for one simple reason: to let energy pass through the tag through an oscillatory circuit.
Давайте возьмем,
Let's take this oscillatory circuit as well.
где у нас, вот тут видно.
For energy to pass through, one needs to interfere another, at least from one side. This is the main vulnerability of radio frequency systems, and that's why it's not recommended even for manufacturers to glue on chocolates and on other metal surfaces.
И поверхности.
In the acoustomagnetic system, such vulnerability is much lower
Звук
because sound sometimes goes diverse ways,
разными путями, отражаясь
reflecting and at some point even being inside the foil.
даже находясь внутри фольги, мы не
We
можем
cannot
предотвратить
prevent the
гарантированно.
guaranteed definition of the mark. Therefore, over time, foil left us being replaced by an acoustomagnetic jammer
Акустомагнитную глушилку
when it was first created. What was the development after years?
было развитие в последующие годы. Нам,
Well, all of the users of foil
пользователи фольги, не нравилось ею пользоваться.
did not like using it because it rustles a lot, it's extremely vulnerable, and it doesn't work perfectly with acoustomagnetic systems.
Когда у нас появился глушак,
When we got a jammer,
таймер,
we were trying for a long time to replace foil with something else.
чем-то еще.
At that moment, as a result of long searches,
Поисков
a replacement was found for radio frequency systems.
именно для радиочастотных систем.
This is one of the best metal materials,
Один из лучших металлических материалов,
which is soft, flexible, and wear resistant.
и износоустойчивостью.
But unfortunately, this material works with the radio frequency system only. If we put an acoustomagnetic mark here, it's still
Помещаем сюда
determined
акустомагнитную метку, она все равно определяется. Потому что
because an acoustomagnetic system works by sound. Now, if I take it like this way and put the cloth on my head, I won't stop hearing, because the cloth does not interfere with the sound by no means. It just lets the sound pass. But at the same time, we use this cloth perfectly for radio frequency systems, in a seamless way. No nuances, no overlays, nothing. For a long time, we used the very this cloth, and we also came up to it for the same reason why we rejected it, because of the appearance of metal detectors that started to identify foil. When these metal detectors began to appear, we were much interested in the creation of electronic methods for system malfunctions and found the material that was not determined by usual metal detectors. See our metallized fabric. But over time, such metal detectors appeared, which started to see even fabric, because it still has some metals in it. As you can see, the magnet holds it completely by layers. And around 2015, the problem arose and we actively started to search for a solution to the problem of modern metal detectors and found this solution in the form of a black shielding fabric, which does not contain any metals, which is invisible to metal detectors, but it solves our problem completely. And generally without any minimal nuances. We can put there even all these tags, and everything is fine. There are no advanced metal detectors that can be applied in the store to see this fabric, since it doesn't contain any metals. Everything was checked with sufficient quality. It's already in use. As you see, from 2017, and it's most likely that one will never need to look for its replacement. If you saw a bag in the frame of the video, it's already stitched with this fabric. On the outside, it has no differences, an absolutely standard bag. You can take any of the radio frequency tags, and even in this form, it is not determined, because this bag is stitched with fabric in 2 layers. There are some physical nuances. It is advisable to use a 2-layer method for making packages, because of physical fabric characteristics and physics in general. I'll show you one nuance. Even the iron sphere, which supposedly screens everything, sometimes misses a signal when the tag is in the center. When the tag is slightly in the center, even the iron sphere around it doesn't always work effectively, but in the case of a radio frequency system, much the same thing happens. It's harder to demonstrate, and 1 layer of black fabric is not always effective in case we fill the bag to the full. If we fill it with demo materials, In case of using two layers, even if the tag is in the center, there are no nuances. Everything is fine. Concluding this part, I will say that at the moment we have actually reached the perfection in search of vulnerabilities of the radio frequency systems using shielding materials. Next, we will tell you about more high-tech methods. The second last chapter. High-tech methods of exploitation of vulnerabilities of anti-theft systems. Many years ago, other specialists with certain knowledge of physics and electronics suggested that both types of systems must use certain methods of analysis, search of tags, and such methods are easy enough to break. And it turned out this way, and about 15 years ago, the first jammers appeared. That broke methods of mark definition with quite a simple way, creating of white noise against the background of the frequency used by the gate. But anti-theft systems have evolved, and now it's all come to the conclusion that we use very high-tech jammers, customagnetic radio frequency, that don't just make noise, but also break the logic of the gate. You can watch all the demonstrations on my website. I don't know what to show to you. On the site there is a detailed description of both jammers, and I can demonstrate only one thing: the way they work. This is a radio frequency jammer. This is an acoustomagnetic jammer. It's working now, we can see it, with a tag indicator. The jammer itself makes similar initial signals with this gate. We turn off the jammer, the gate sees the tag, the same with the radio frequency ones. I don't want to talk about jammers in this video, to avoid any complaints about this video, because this video is quite voluminous. So study the site, look through all the descriptions, ask questions, and you will get more concrete information about high-tech methods of exploitation of vulnerabilities for both acoustomagnetic and radio frequency systems. In addition, this whole video makes sense for people to be able to start using high-tech methods of exploitation of vulnerabilities of these systems, but without understanding how to distinguish one system from another. These high-tech methods are completely senseless and even dangerous to some people. Therefore, if you haven't cleared up something till this moment, flee back, look through everything again. Then, at some point, you will realize that on the whole, there's nothing complicated to take one device or another device and suppress the effect of these devices. Everything is much simpler than it seems at the very beginning, when you look at it as a single whole. But in fact, here is one, here is another, and it's very different. You have seen all of it. Then, in the next part, I will tell you something cool and interesting. The final chapter. Here I wanted to show a little bit of such jokes that we found in the process of our years-long activity. Vulnerabilities that are not obvious and inadequate. I don't know how you can apply it. I hope you won't apply it, but here is such a joke. When two physical marks being parallel to each other do not work. With this method, we simply change characteristics of both coils, and they do not meet the gate by no method. What else is there? The easiest joke. A phone, just like foil and other materials, interferes with the tag to work correctly and answer the gate correctly. Another big joke is about such a thing which so many people have. It's quite a strong magnet, but not many people have such a thing, this very powerful puller. This is a 20,000 Gauss puller. What can it do? It can do almost everything. Let's take the same tag 3 alarm, a costomagnetic. If we keep it where necessary, neither the gate can see the tag nor the tag sees the gate. The same thing is with all other marks. With a costomagnetic dural tag, with almost any tag. This tag overlaps its entire area. If we take some simpler tag and move it a bit, and here you see, it doesn't work. This is also outside the video format. What else can you do? Here is still a quite small radio frequency round tag, and accordingly, none of 3 tags will work by no means. Neither costomagnetic nor radio frequency, and none of super tag tags will work. It all works by a simple principle. We change characteristics of the solitary circuit using a magnet. It stops working, receiving and emitting signals because ferrite changes its features. Accordingly, all these tags are vulnerable to this magnetic system with high parameters. What else shall I show? I have also already shown all the nuances of tag vulnerabilities, what can be done with them, how to work with them. What other interesting things shall I show you? I can show how my hand works. My hand is also such a magical thing. It sometimes happens. In general, I'm very glad that we've done it. In fact, a result of joint efforts of the team, which is behind the scenes, To prepare all this, assemble it in one place, show everything, and give you an opportunity to understand all vulnerabilities, all the nuances of these systems, so that your professional, unprofessional, or amateur activity could be more developed, more evidence-based, and most importantly, safer. Thanks to all. I think a similar video will never be made, and this is the only video in the universe of this format. Good luck to all.